Welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 240. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvang. I'm joined now by my co-hosts, Matt Smith.
Good afternoon.
And Treg Wilson.
Good afternoon.
So it is Sunday, the 13th of March, and we've gone a full week without an episode. It's been a long week. We've been fairly busy. Stuff's going on. Matt, how's the Air Force?
Blame the day job, that's for sure.
Blame the day job.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a war going on. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, invasion. Can't say war yet. It's a war. We already know.
It's a war.
Yeah. Yes, Air Force is doing well, though, other than that.
Okay. Treg?
For some reason, sea training came to a land unit and we had to run around with our heads cut off, doing nothing. And then, and I'm also have a grandbaby expected any moment. So we're on call for that. So
Yeah. The expanding Wilson empire.
that's right. First boy since me.
Whoop, whoop. Finally. Maybe this one they'll raise it right.
I doubt it.
All right. So it's been a fairly eventful week for the Canadians. They've had a few games. They've done some stuff. So why don't we just dive into the injury update? As of last night, Kyle Clegg has been placed on the IR. Edmondson has been called up. Schooneman has been called up. Edmondson will not play tonight against Philadelphia after playing last night against Seattle. It looks like they're kind of ease him back into the games there because of his back. And it's looking like Dvorak and Drouin will be coming back sometime this week.
It'll be interesting to see how they do under St. Louis. Seems that almost everyone else has got a boost with him as the coach. And, a lot of people have been shit talking Dvorak this season. A lot of people have been obviously shit talking Drouin because that's what people do. But it's going to be interesting to see what the lineup matchups are going to look like, see what the team's going to look like, obviously, after the trade deadline. And this might give them a little bit more of a boost. Obviously, they're still sitting at the bottom of the league, but a little bit of a boost of confidence for guys that still have term left on their deals with the Canadians. It could be a good thing.
Drouin, before he got injured, believe it or not, was one of the most consistent players on the team.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know people want to shit on him, but like I had a Twitter argument with one guy and I just kept throwing these stats out at him because he says, all he gets is secondary assists. Well, not according to this. And then they just kind of get quiet because people just want to shit on Drouin because he's the big French hope that didn't work out. The thing with Drouin is you got to realize he's a secondary scorer. He's not a top line 70, 80 point guy. He's a second or third line 50 point player. And he's making $5 million, which is about the average salary for a 50 point player. So, and if you believe what's going on with Kotkaniemi, it's the average salary for a 30 point player now too. So, or just under 5. So really, I don't know. I think Drouin might thrive under Martin St. Louis. He's the type of player that plays the way St. Louis wants his concepts to work. So,
he's all about instinct, this one.
All about instinct, all about whatever. You
Match Drouin. The question is where that like Dvorak will probably take over the second where Dauphin and Pitlick were sitting.
As he should.
But with Pitlick playing so well, it'd be interesting to see where Drouin goes and where maybe Mike Hoffman drops off to. So
I don't know. Hoffman's been playing very well recently. The last
and that's
3-4 games.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where's Drouin going to fit into this lineup when he comes back? It's not going to be the first line because they're not taking that line apart. The second line with Gallagher, Hoffman, and probably Dvorak when he comes back. So is he third line? He would have to be third line.
Yeah. I would assume he'd be on the third line, probably with Pitlick and Evans.
Yeah, and then you have Lehkonen with Paling and Maramia.
Yeah,
which has been a very good line.
Or Byron. I think personally, I think Paling should be moved up in the lineup, but I always thought he should have filled in that second line role with while Dvorak was out, but nothing against Dauphin. I like Dauphin. I think he'd be a good person to bring back as a fourth line center next year, but
A 13th forward, maybe.
Yeah.
exactly as a fourth line center or 13th forward, not as the second line center.
Take Paquette's spot on the roster.
Who?
The guy they
Paquette.
sent down to the.
Did anyone
the
pick
minors.
him up on waivers? Oh,
Not
didn't
yet.
think
No,
so.
no till 2. Yeah. The Pocket Rocket.
There's still another, as we
Half hour.
record, there's still another 30 minutes before the waiver wire closes.
I don't see GMs lining up to pick him up off waivers, but you never.
I wouldn't imagine. Why waste a roster spot on a guy that might be a 13th forward on your lineup?
Does he even have a point?
A couple,
I think-
maybe.
Yeah, maybe a couple.
As we all scramble to look.
I'm gonna say
I'm not even
maybe.
bothering.
I'll say maybe a couple.
Like he's definitely a depth guy, but no one's making waiver wire pickups at this time of the year.
No,
His
not
two,
as
his
a
two,
depth player.
his 2 assists.
Um,
And
People are
24
saving
games.
they're going to save their cap savings as much as they can for the deadline that's coming up in about a week.
As it goes for Dvorak, I see him slotting into that second line, and I think he's another guy that's going to do well. When he left Arizona, everyone in Arizona said we got a great player.
Yeah.
Then he got here and he didn't do so well, just like everyone else on the Canadians didn't do so well.
Weird.
But for some reason, the fans pick and point out certain people to throw all the blame on. Drew in Dvorak because he's the new guy, and we gave up a first round pick for him. Because everyone's expectations are way too high on people. Like it's like, oh, we got this guy, he's going to be 100-point scorer. No, like let's calm down, everyone. You know. By the way, Rem Pitlick's now all by himself in 8th in rookie scoring. Just thought I'd throw that out there with his 1 assist last night.
Honestly, I think Pitlick is showing to be maybe the best waiver wire pickup for the Canadians. Well, definitely since Byron, but maybe even better than Byron. If he sticks around for a couple years like this, definitely.
Totally agree. That guy could be a 20-25 goal scorer easily on a third line, which is basically what Byron did on the third line, 20 goals.
Yeah.
Mind you,
20
Pitlick,
once.
Pitlick gets power play and PK time, whereas Byron never got any power play time. So,
True.
but still.
But he's got that speed.
He's pending RFA, right? So
Yeah. He's only making about 910,000 this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no problem seeing them qualifying him, keeping him
yeah,
on.
absolutely. But a guy right now that's got 25 points this season in 42 games. And then I think he should definitely stay. And to throw a barb at Kakaniemi, guy that's got 23 points in 55 games, it's going to sign almost a $5 million contract. But so apparently Pitlick is worth $5.5-6 million
In Carolina.
in Carolina. Yeah.
Play the third, fourth line.
Yeah.
And and we haven't seen the other Pitlick. Lance Pitlick hasn't dressed yet.
Tyler.
Tyler.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. There's so many. And come next year, it could be a full line. Pitlick to Pitlick to Pitlick.
Oh, we'll see.
Could be. I think one thing I like about Rem Pitlick is he kills and this is where I'm going to throw a little toot out here where I did my Lehkonen story on whether they should keep him or trade him. But I think Rem Pitlick is going to be could be a factor in whether they keep Lehkonen or not. Both are RFAs at the end of the season. Lehkonen is making 2.3 now, and he's probably going to ask for Armia, anywhere between Armia and what's his name there that was in that Tampa traded for last year for the playoffs.
Coleman.
Barkley Goodrow.
Coleman type money.
Okay.
Or Barclay Goodrow is another one
Yeah.
you can use an example. So there you're looking at anywhere between 3.4 and $4.5 million.
Yeah.
For the same type, a third line, fourth line defensive type forward. And really, I mean, at 26, I don't have an issue with that with Lehkonen. He's young. Sign him to a 4-year deal and keep him until he's 30. But then you have Rem Pitlick, who's 23, I think.
25.
And, 25, and he's killing penalties. He's scoring. Well, they're about the same in scoring right now. But
Providing about the same offensive output. Pitlick is not quite as good defensively, but
he's a little better offensively.
yeah.
He's got some wheels too. He can skate. The guy can skate.
And you got to keep in mind too, if you've already got Armia at 3.4, and that's
the contract right now that,
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's the one that's got to go.
you're not going to,
There's rumors out there that
Yeah,
GMs are calling on
Darren
Armia.
Dreger talked about that there's teams that are calling, teams that are interested, but
take them.
it's really going to depend on what
Return.
the other side's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bottom line is you don't want to have 2 or 3 guys in your bottom 6 making $3 or more million
No,
a year.
not at all. Not at all.
Because you got Paul Byron that's going to be down there making $3.5 million as well.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So you
Thankfully,
sign
that's
Lehkonen-
one more year.
Right.
Yeah.
You sign Lekin to 3.5. Mind you, you only have Druin on the books for another year after this year.
Yeah.
So there's $5 million you could be gone within 2 years. But still, I agree with you, Blaine. I can't see you having over $10 million pretty much on your fourth line.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Take, with Pitlick there, who's providing what he is providing, then you have Yalonen, who's knocking on the door. You need to make some space there. Would the Canadians be better off in getting a return for Lehkonen and playing these guys? I think so.
I think so as well. Especially if he's sell up right now, his value sky high.
Yeah.
And if you just sign him to a qualifying offer, you get 1 more year. And what if he doesn't have the year next year that he had this year? Then you're going to be selling at a low.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is a career year for points for him. I think this is an outlier.
agreed.
He is a guy that he's going to get you 30 to 35 points a year. And he never cheats on the play. He's going to be that solid 2-way defensive guy, but he's not going to be really putting up a ton of points. This year, I think it's just an outlier.
No, I totally agree. I mean, he might hit 20 goals this year, but I think he's a 15 goal scorer, between 12 and 15 goals per year. I would even say 25 to 30 points a year, not 30 to 35, but high 35. And it not only is it a career year, but you're going to be forced to give him that big contract if that's what he wants, because how can you sit there and say you're not worth this when he can go, well, why is this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy? His agents are going to say, well, all these guys are worth that. You have a guy in your own team, 2 guys on your team that are worth that do the exact same thing. So,
and also keep in mind, if Hughes and Gorton want to be players on the free agent market, they can't be keeping these guys to pay them, because they'll need that cap space to sign somebody like, say, a Letang
or a Bergeron.
Yeah.
Because they did say, a lot of people got confused with this. Oh, they're going to do the same thing Bergevin did and just patch holes and do this. They say they want to go on the free agent market and get a star player. They didn't say they wanted to Bergevin just went on a free agent and plugged holes with plugs. Paquette, Perreault, Savard. You know what I mean? Like they want to go out and have the money and be able to say, well, if we can get Bergeron, we're going after Bergeron.
Go for a Panarin type of deal.
Right. If we can't get him, well, we're not just going to get, Joe Center that, scored 10 goals last year because he's a center. That's my belief anyway. So.
All right. Well, we'll get back to the trade deadline stuff in a little bit. We'll touch on the Seattle game now. So the Canadians just finished a Western road trip. They went 3-2, came home, had a couple of days off, and they played Saturday night at home in front of a full sellout crowd against the Seattle Kraken. And I mean, you couldn't have asked for better. Yeah, it was, first game after a road trip is usually the hardest, and you could tell that there was some rust, but the game was entertaining. They went to a shootout. They gave up the extra point to the team ahead of them in the standings. So they got a point. They had to come back. They got some goals. They looked pretty good, but they still fell back a little bit in the standings. So everybody's happy.
I think Neon Coke guy threw off all the shooters that were shooting down on Grabauer, because they all seemed to throw the puck right where he was sitting. They were even though they outshot Seattle, they were very flat in the first period, I thought. I didn't think, all their shots were hitting Grabauer in the belly pad. They weren't very dangerous shots. They were just seemed to be getting in, throwing a shot at him. And mind you, Grabauer was giving up huge rebounds. Like he was giving up. And come the second period, they started easing in on that, and guys were going to the middle of the ice and trying to pick up those rebounds. But what a great third period. And I thought the overtime was very entertaining. Like, even though no one scored, I thought it was a very entertaining.
They went for it.
Which under Martin St. Louis, you got to be used to, because he goes for it every overtime. I don't understand that concept, because I'm used to 20 years of, let's just save our point.
Yeah.
And the shootout, I don't know. I think we missed the net more times than we hit it. So out of the 7 shots, I think we missed the net 4 times. So Monty played well, though.
Yeah, go high glove. Always go high glove for whatever
I'll
reason.
eat crow, because I said I wasn't confident about Monty going into the shootout, and I thought he played well. I thought he played well in the shootout.
I think he was the only reason it went to 7 shooters.
Yeah, I knew they were going to score when they say that guy's never scored a career shootout goal.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said that, I was like, well, this game's over. So,
well, this is the St. Louis effect. Seeing this type of game, the third period was highly entertaining and was at a high pace, because he was rolling the lines that were performing. So Suzuki's line, Paling's line, he was going back and forth with them for quite a bit of time. I mean, you look at the ice time, Suzuki and Caulfield both had 23-42, 23-43. Like, that's a ton of ice time for a forward. Paling in the last period got about 7 minutes of ice time. So
Paling had a great game.
Yeah.
Paling had a very strong, good game.
He had a real good jump to his step. Like, he had a ton of speed. And that little recovery play that he had in the second period, he got tripped up a little bit on a partial 2-on-1, kick the puck up to a stick, make a pass that just missed, but just the heads up play to do that was impressive.
I think Paling's going to be a strong third line center when he finally.
And yeah, I think that's why they got him playing down there the way he is. They're not trying to give him too much already. I think St. Louis kind of identified that, and here, this is your role. We're going to let you ease into it. Here you go. We're not going to ruin you. We're going to throw in guys, like Dauphin and Pitlick, who, if it works out, great. If not, who cares?
Yeah, we're just going to throw him back on the wing on another line anyway. So
yeah.
But I was impressed with Paling last night. Romanoff, I thought, had a very strong game, and he's been kind of mediocre lately. But I thought he had and what a shot he had for that second goal. All around, like I say, it was a flat first period, but all around, and this is what you learn to expect from Martin St. Louis. You get down by 2 goals or 3 goals at the first of the season, you're like, I'm just going to go watch something else now because this game's over. But with Martin St. Louis, you tend to stay around and watch because you know that they're not done. So,
yeah, I give the team full marks on that one. I mean, in the past, in the first half of the season, definitely they would have crumbled and lost 10-2. But with St. Louis there, the guys seem to want to play for pride at the very least. They're professionals. They're going for it.
And it's like you said, it worked out for everyone. They lost a point in the standings, stayed in last place, but still played a strong game, made everyone go home happy.
Yeah. Put on a good show.
Shane Wright, here we come, even though we're probably going to finish third in the lottery.
One player that stood out for me was Edmondson. I thought he had a good game for his first game back of the year. He played just over 16 minutes, so you can tell that they are trying to ease him back into this, but he's just that solid net front guy. He's going to clear the front of the net. He had 6 hits last night. He's a +1, couple shots on goal, took penalty, but overall, I think that should bring a little bit more balance to the D-core. However, obviously with Sherratt likely leaving, Petrie probably leaving at some point, Savard's still out. You just lost, your best defenseman in Clegg to the IR. You lose that kind of stuff. Then, yeah, exactly. For those not watching on YouTube, Treg's shirt says I speak fluent sarcasm, and he pointed at that after I said the Clegg comment. But last night, I really thought that line, though, with Petrie was going to be a little bit more stable But the fact that they played Petrie about 8 minutes more than Edmondson, because obviously it's his first game back. But right now you got to look at the decor and who you're going to bring back, who's going to be moved. Obviously the trade bait board, which we'll get into later on. There's some names that could definitely move based on injuries to some of these top players that are supposed to move out from other teams. So if I'm Hughes and Gorton, I'm trying to exploit that as much as possible.
Yeah, and especially with only a week left for the deadline, the cap savings on pulling the trigger on a trade, say Monday, is not that big of a difference between Monday and Friday. Maybe $20,000 at the most.
What, I mean, are we getting into the trade deadline now?
No, I'd like to finish up with the
Okay.
Seattle game though.
All right. Okay.
Thing-
I'll say what I have to say later.
Okay. Another thing, obviously power play.
Oh
That
yeah.
was that like, if, you know, we can say whatever we want about positives in the game. That was not one of them. And it was just, you know, let's dump the puck around the boards and no one's going to be there. And they did that so many times last night. And it was just, we've talked in length about their power play and some of the strong play that they've had from a few different games. And then all of a sudden it's just dropped off immensely, especially last night, where you couldn't get set up, you couldn't win faceoffs, you couldn't make a simple pass. And then for them to allow 2 shorthanded goals against, even though one was blatantly offside, you still allowed that to happen, and Montembeault still let the shot go through.
Well, the first power play, they got zone entry, they controlled it, they got some good puck movement, they got a couple of shots off.
Yes, the first
power play was
first
good.
one was good. Yes.
Then
They had
Weidman
3
got
shots
hurt.
in the first one.
But then Weidman got hurt.
Yeah.
And Petrie took over in his spot. And that's when we started to see the dump and chase crap on the power play.
Yeah.
Because Petrie would, you know, take the drop pass and then, you know, kind of slowly wander up to the blue line and just slap shot corner, rim it around, and then back out again.
Yeah.
There was no controlled entries. I think that was the big difference there. Giving up the shorthanded goals. Oh my God. Thankfully, the Canadians won an actual video review for a change.
It was kind of obvious.
Yeah, but still.
Once you saw it, you're like, yeah, that's well offside.
Yeah. But nonetheless, like you said, it did happen. They still got the goal, even though it didn't count, but they made a play to score a goal. So the power play was pretty bad. To be honest.
I'll agree. The first power play was good. Like,
Yeah.
I thought they were actually going to score on it, but after that,
Yeah.
it's like they didn't even bother trying on the power. Like, one thing that hasn't changed since St. Louis took over is the power play. It's still crap.
Well, he's
So-
incrementally changing things. The 5-on-5 play is definitely lights out better.
Defense is better. Goaltending's better.
But you get into the special teams, that's where things start to take a shit.
I think the penalty killing's improved, but
Well, they were 2 for 3 on the penalty kill.
Yeah. And the
Which-
one that they let in was taking one guy from the pile when Anderson got that call against him, right? So
Yeah.
that was a terrible call.
Yeah. I mean, bad call and all, but they still allowed a goal on the penalty
Yeah,
kill. And
yeah.
which honestly, a 2 for 3 on the penalty kill is better than what it was in the start of the season, which would have been 0 for 3 on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Because when St. Louis showed up, they were about 28th overall in the penalty kill. Now they're about 27th. So
Another thing I want to point out before we move on is, you know, Grubauer tried to play the tough guy a couple times last night, you know, people
Yeah.
around his net and everything. Like he did the little hook into Armia. He did the same thing to Lehkonen in
and
overtime,
oh yeah, he
et
punched
cetera.
Lehkonen.
Yeah, right. And like, you know, no calls were gonna come of that. But like, I'm just thinking to myself, you're one of the most overpaid goalies in the league now. You got your contract by playing good hockey for a very good hockey team. And then all of a sudden you took the money and ran, and yeah.
I thought what Lehkonen did though in overtime was the perfect thing to do. He knew
did.
Grubauer was trying to move the puck so that
He
two
stayed on him.
Canadians would get pinched there, and he got in front of him.
Yeah.
And he said, "All right, throw the puck out." I don't care. I'll
And
take it.
and there's
score on it.
nothing wrong with that. He didn't
No.
interfere with the goalie.
He just didn't like it.
You're within 5 feet of me, and then you're not allowed to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
wasn't even in the blue ice. Technically,
No.
Lehkonen could have hit him.
Should have.
Technically.
Should have.
Yeah, should have. Yeah.
Yeah. And officiating. We talked
Yeah.
about this offline, but
Yeah. I wouldn't get into it. Sure.
I mean, Hockey Night in Canada said that it was really good.
Yeah.
Hockey
And
Night in
they're never
Canada-
wrong.
Hockey Night in Canada is in Bettman's back pocket or something because
It's went downhill, and we all know it's went downhill. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna go into details about it. I grew up, and you guys grew up watching Hockey Night in Canada, watching Coach's Corner and all that kind of stuff. But it is true that since Don Cherry left, and I'm not going to get into why he left and why he was fired and how he was fired and everything like that, but the overall product has went downhill, and not as many people are watching it anyway. Usually you watch a game like last night, you had the Montreal Canadiens featured on Hockey Night in Canada, and they went out of their way not to talk about the Canadiens. Yes, I know there's an outdoor game in Hamilton. Yes, it's a moneymaker for the league. Yes, it's this. However, there's more shit to talk to about than that game and the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? People are watching Hockey Night in Canada, a Canadiens game, and they want to hear about the teams that are playing. They don't give a shit about the Toronto Maple Leafs. There, I said it.
so back to reffing.
Getting back to officiating. With that, they brought up the whole Austin Matthews thing, and they brought up the fact that he got in the ref's face, and it showed leadership, and it showed everything else in terms of his way of thinking after the game was over.
You mean he was whining like a bitch?
Yes, and that's exactly what it is, right? I said this, Treg said this, multiple other people have said this. It is one that call that should have been against them, or that should have been for the Leafs. Yes, it should have been a penalty. Was it called? No. Did he give up on the play? Yes. Did it cost the team the game? Absolutely. So you can say all you want that, yeah, it should have been a call. Till that arm goes up or the whistle gets blown, you don't give up on the play. You continue to play hockey until it happens. He let his team down, but no one's going to say anything bad about the Leafs or about Austin Matthews, especially on Hockey Night in Canada, because they are so fucking pro Toronto that they bleed those fucking colors, and it's the most frustrating thing to watch.
As a fan of any other team.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how they get they'll never have a flat tire. Their tires are constantly getting pumped up.
It's just
Constantly.
It's just the most frustrating thing to watch. And like, I know I'm not the only fan out there that thinks the same thing.
It'll be interesting to see if Toronto ever gets back to being near the bottom of the league again. And they will. Every team does their cycles.
They do their cycle.
How that's going to be addressed on these shows.
Yeah.
Because how can you pump the team up if, like, say Toronto has it's say in 5 years, Matthews is gone, and everything's changing in Toronto because they haven't got it in the first round yet, and everyone's pissy and they're starting over. Like, what are you going to talk about? Like, you have 6 other teams in the Canada in the NHL.
Yeah.
Yes, you are a national broadcast. I get it. If the Leaf game's on, talk about the Leafs all you want.
Yeah.
But the Leafs game's not on. You know what I mean? It's a Habs game or an Ottawa or a Senators game or a
Flames
or a Winnipeg
Oilers.
game or Flames they're later. So if you watch the later game, they don't talk as much about Toronto because it's a West Coast team that's doing the show.
Not as much, but they still do.
As much. They still do. You can't just talk about Toronto about everything. And not every player, like, you look at social media and Sportsnet, put a thing out. Is Austin Matthews going to win the Hart, the Rocket, or score 60 goals? Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, he's getting the Vezina too.
But it's like, first of all, there's a goaltender in New York Rangers who should be head and shoulders above anyone for the Hart Trophy right now.
Agreed.
Anybody.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Agreed.
He has having the
a 940 save percentage.
He is having the best season for a goalie since I think Dominic Hasek did in the 90s. And no one's saying a friggin' word about it.
No.
Here in Canada. It's all about
about
Austin Matthews. It's all, and Toronto fans wonder why everyone's so bitchy about Austin Matthews, because it's all people ever hear about.
Yeah.
And they're is Austin Matthews an elite player? Absolutely.
He is.
Is he going to score 60 goals? Yes, he is. Is he going to win the Rocket? Probably. Right?
Should he be the MVP? No.
But is he going to be nominated? Sure. He could be top 3. Sure.
Yeah.
Right? But here's what I say. You lose Austin Matthews on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Are they going to go down the toilet?
No.
No, they're not. Same if you lose McDavid on Edmonton. As long as Draisaitl's there, they probably won't go down the toilet. They won't be much better. But you lose to, I don't even want to, Shesterkin? Is that how you say his name?
Shesterkin, yeah.
You lose Shesterkin on the Rangers, they are done.
Yeah.
He is by far the reason why they're at the top of the standings right now.
Exactly. And that is what the Hart Trophy's for. The most valuable player of your team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking impact player, Shesterkin is the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Toronto's offense, which Austin Matthews is a big part of, is a big reason why they're where they're at. I'll agree to that. Yeah. And I'll agree that, yes, he should get some looks as a Hart candidate, consideration as a Hart candidate. But is he the head and shoulders guy ahead? Like everyone on these like Sportsnet and TSN are saying? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, I think Huberdeau is having a better season, a more MVP like season than Austin Matthews.
Yeah, he's about to break, I think, the all-time record for assists by a left winger or something like that. Yeah.
And how often have you heard that?
Right now.
I mean, he's going to have over 90 assists, over 100 some points. Austin Matthews may not even get 100 points.
Yeah.
And yet, Huberdeau barely even spoken about.
No,
except for if you're his agent on Twitter.
Yeah.
But other than that,
but it's true. Like,
but he's a phenomenal player.
This is my point.
Yeah.
And a little bit goes to McDavid as well. Everyone talks, how great McDavid is, and McDavid's going to do this, and McDavid's going to do that. But I mean, McDavid doesn't have the help Matthews has. Matthews has Nylander, he has Tavares, he has Marner, he has Riley. He has, I guess that's it. I mean, it's like it's like the rookie of the year candidate there, Bunting.
Yeah.
You really think even Alex Hobson from the Hockey Writers, Toronto writer, he even says he would be nothing more than the third line player if he wasn't playing with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from him. He leads rookies in points and he's doing his thing and he's scoring his points. You can't. But I mean, I think Lucas Raymond is the call, or actually
Maurice Seider.
Yeah.
Or Maurice Seider. For a defenseman to be almost leading all rookies in points is. And then you got Rem Pitlick, who's sitting 8th with 25 points. Can't forget about him.
That's right. So again, back to officiating. I know I kind of derailed this a little bit, but I'm going to steer it back. Officiating, yeah. Again, back to the panels saying that there's nothing wrong with officiating. There's nothing wrong with this. There's no deficiencies. There's no this. There's no that. I am a strong supporter of calling the calls against any player, doesn't matter who's on the back of that jersey. It's the same thing is when all these people freak out on all these panels and say, well, did you really have to finish your check on Austin Matthews? Did you really have to finish your check on Connor McDavid? Yes, you fucking did. Because I'm tired of seeing all these, it's the highlight of the night when a guy skates through 4 or 5 players and then they're like, oh, well, fuck, it's McDavid. I can't touch him. And yes, I know that McDavid has a lot of skill and he could probably get through these guys, but most of it, they're standing there pedestrian. They're not going to touch him because they know that a call is going to happen. And you see guys throughout the league, and I'll segue over to Treg for this one, as we talked about it off air. But you take a look at some of these players in the league, like Gallagher, you take a look at Nazem Kadri, etc. that, yes, I've never been a Kadri fan. Never been a Kadri fan. However, he gets the short end of the stick quite often. Gallagher, he gets the same thing.
Brad Marchand,
Brad Marchand, etc.
He takes a licking and he just keeps on going.
Exactly. but there needs to be more consistency. It can't just be like, we're going to take you because the name on the back of your jersey, or we're not going to take you because the name on the back of your jersey.
I mean,
and guys stopping the play or throwing their arms up, and like the other night when they played the Oilers and the stick was going over onto the ice, and Gallagher came and did the big stick flip, and it flew up into the air. Did Gallagher need to do that? No. Did it impede him? It would have. It should have been a bench penalty. But I slowed that down, and you could see McDavid on the bench when the stick goes up, and he's right at the ref, like, "Oh, what are you going to make the call?" And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the fact that the players shouldn't. They said stop on the play, and they shouldn't be the ones bitching to the refs during the play, saying, are you going to call that? Are you going to this? Are you going to this? The officials out there to make the call or not. We've seen very tight called games. We've seen very loose called games, but there needs to be more consistency in the calls that are made. Goaltender interference, slashing, checking from behind, anything like that. It really boils down to who's on the back of the jersey, or sometimes even the team that's playing.
And this is the biggest issue with refereeing. A penalty isn't determined on whether it's an actual infraction or not. It's determined on who's doing the infraction, who the infraction is against, and what time of the game it happened.
What's the score?
Yeah.
And what's the score? So a referee in overtime or 2 minutes left in the game is not going to call a non-obvious penalty, or something that you're like, okay, we can kind of let that happen. That's not too bad. Like the issue with, we'll go back to Matthews. If you really look at it, it was more of an interference than a hold, because he didn't really hold him. He just kind of pushed him into the
There was
board.
an infraction there. We can all agree to that.
It was a penalty with the referee sitting right there looking at it.
Yes.
However, he's probably not going to call that, because would he have called that? Really, you know what I mean? That's kind of one of those, I'm not going to.
It's in overtime, so probably
overtime. I'm going to let that go. Now, if he would have lifted his stick and hit him right in the face and made him bleed, might have been a penalty. Shot the puck over the glass. Obvious penalty, something where you cannot not call it because it's so blatant. Like too many men on the ice, or because the other night they had a too many men on the ice call in overtime. They had to call it. There was 6 guys on the ice, like in the middle of the ice. You kind of had to call that. And that's what they're going to call. They're not going to call these little bit of a hook. Ovechkin wasn't a little bit of a hook. It was it was a 1990s Mario Lemieux trying to go in on a breakaway defensive thing, because that's how they played defense in the 90s. But that's the issue with the reffing is Nazem Kadri, not a Kadri fan, not a fan. But in that one game, he hooked or did something to someone, slashed or hooked someone, not a hard slash or anything, and the guy went down like a ton of bricks. He gets the penalty, and he's arguing, well, that's he dove like that. That was a dive, and the referee, you can see it on the television. You still slashed him. You know what I mean? You still slashed him, so he got the penalty. Later in the game, similar thing happens to Kadri. Kadri goes down. Referee looks at him. I'm not calling that because you dove. But he still hit, it was still an infraction. Your excuse to Kadri was it was an infraction. So he's still calling it, but now your excuse to him is his dove. And I mean, and Kadri's known for taking Greg Louganis type dives. Same with, and Brad Marchand's the same way. Tom Wilson, another guy. Yeah. He will never get the good side of a call. A lot of it's based on but it shouldn't be based on your play. Gallagher will never win an goalie interference call ever in his life. Never. Well, even if he's 5 feet away, even if he's 5 feet away from the goalie and it just goes, the puck goes by him, they'll be like, "Oh no, you're too close."
Yeah. They gave him an interference call. They gave him an interference call in the Edmonton game on the guy who put a stick out on the ice from the bench.
Correct, which should be a too many men on the ice penalty because you're not allowed to have your stick out on.
It's actually an interference penalty on a bench minor.
On a bench minor. but
But
didn't
instead
call
they
it.
gave it to Gallagher because
They
it's
could at
Gallagher.
least gave the bench minor and Gallagher a
Yeah.
penalty. Gallagher a misconduct for flipping the stick way up in the air.
Yeah, they could have
and
said,
the bench for
unsportsmanlike conduct or something like that or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the issue. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against the referees putting their whistle away. I'm not against that. You know what I mean? I'm not against for them letting a little bit go.
Yeah, as long as it's on
As
both
long
sides.
as it's on both sides and they don't pick and choose who and when they're going to call the penalties.
No, like
If they're going to put their whistles away, call the blatant shit.
anything
what I
that could
mean?
lead to a scoring chance, like the
Correct.
Matthews penalty. Well, the penalty that Chychrun should have had, that would have been Matthews on a breakaway. That should have been called for that reason.
Mhm.
But anyway, I digress.
But it wasn't.
We'll move on from this. We'll go to the trade deadline stuff. We talked a little bit about Lehkonen earlier, but we'll switch over to Sherratt. So in the last couple of games, the Canadians have been scouted fairly heavily by Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Colorado, and Minnesota. And last night's game against Seattle actually had the head pro scout for the Pittsburgh Penguins watching the game. So,
According to Marco D'Amico, Edmonton was there as well, and
Yes.
they've been there for a while. And there's one other team, but I forget who he said it was. But and
Florida.
Edmonton's been there the last 2 games.
and Florida.
Florida, correct? Yep. Sherratt, I think is going to go to a West Coast team.
I think so too.
I think it's going to go to St. Louis. St. Louis just got a big injury on their blue line, or Dallas, because Dallas is having issues on their blue line as well.
Yeah, Heineman
Dal-
got mono.
And
Yeah,
Klingberg could be out.
so Miro Heiskanen's got mononucleosis, and then Klingberg, well, they don't even know if he's going to come back. But
Yeah.
now you can keep him, bring in another player, and then when Heiskanen's back going, there's your LTIR relief player coming back to help
Yeah.
save the day.
Yeah.
The
But with-
a la Kucherov.
But with what's his name, Chikrin or Chikrin or what-
Chychrun?
Chychrun
Yeah,
and Klingberg injured, Sherratt's value just skyrocketed
Absolutely.
through the roof.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're going to get all the first round picks for him because teams are going to trade for first round picks just to give to the Canadians.
Yep.
Sherratt is the only one Hughes has actually come out and said he will be trading at the deadline.
Yeah.
So his last interview he did a couple days ago, he pretty much came right out and said Sherratt will not be a Canadian after the deadline. He's the only one. And I don't even think he said it in those words. I think he just pretty much said, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, he also, in the same interview with Eric Engels, said that Petrie, nothing's changed there. He's still going to get
Right.
traded, but there's no timeline.
Window. No, I think Petrie's an off-season trade. I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be Detroit just because I think that's where Petrie kind of wants to head to.
And they need some veteran defensemen there after
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah. And with Philadelphia re-signing Ristolainen into that ridiculous deal. I don't see Petrie going there at all.
No,
Not at
no,
$6.5 million.
But with Sherratt, yeah, so you made a good point. The 2 guys that were ahead of him on the trade board are now both hurt and they're out. And a lot of people were in the press in Montreal were harping on Hughes for not pulling the trigger sooner, saying, "Oh, you're just holding out. You're asking too much."
Now
But
it
is
could work
he?
out in their favor. It could work
But
out in their favor now.
It
though.
could.
He could probably ask more now.
Teams were going to be waiting until about this week anyway for the maximum amount of savings they can get under the cap. The Canadians are obviously going to, I would assume, take at least half of his cap hit.
Well, right now, say with Dallas, that was a team that a lot of people were saying, well, Klingberg's going to move out. So a natural position would be to trade Petrie to them. And then, for assets or for this or for this or for whatever. The fact that now they've lost Heiskanen, Klingberg's probably not going to go anywhere, especially as they're trying to battle for their own playoff spot. So I can't see very much of a deal being made there, but I really think it's going to come down to who's going to be the first one to get traded. Is it going to be Sherratt? Is it going to be a Josh Manson? Is it going to be a Giordano, et cetera? Like who's going to be the first kind of domino to fall and then see what happens from there?
The thing is, though, teams are looking for Sherratt for the defensive help in the playoffs because of the
Yes.
style of the game that Giordano is more of an offensive
He is.
defenseman. So if they want more offense, they're going to go
Yeah.
Giordano. If they want more defense and more teams, I mean, you could even, although Muzzin, they say Muzzin's going to be back, you could even throw the Leafs in the mix on Sherrod. It's just whether or not they're going to have the money to.
Well, I
put
mean,
him in there.
it's not like he doesn't bring any offensive game, and he's got 7
No,
goals this year, which is
but-
more than Morgan Riley has.
No, but that's not. But that's not what he's going to be looked at when they're.
No,
They want that
but-
guy that's going to clear the front of the net. Although
But he
Sherrod
can-
got some wheels. Sherrod
For
can
a big
skate.
guy, for a big guy,
A
he
big
can
guy,
actually
he can
skate.
skate.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It's not like he has no offense. But I don't know. I still think he's going to a West team, and all the best to him. And
I'm interested to see what the return is going to end up being, because
Yes.
now I'm wondering if there's going to be a bidding war, because the Rangers are looking for defensemen. They're on the left side. Sherrod plays both sides, so the Avalanche we're looking for that. Florida, Pittsburgh's definitely looking for that too.
Yeah,
I
if for the Avalanche, if they don't take a run at, say, a guy like Giroux with Landeskog going down, then yeah, I could see them taking a run at a defenseman.
With Sherrod
And Gerard's out as well.
Yeah, with Sherrod, it'll be interesting because you absolutely know they're going to want to get a prospect, an A class, at least a high B or an A prospect, because they've already come out and said they'd rather a D1, D2 guy over a draft pick.
Yeah.
Hughes and Gordon have pretty much already said that. So I see if a first round is brought into it, maybe A minus B type prospect. If there's no first, you're looking at an A plus prospect coming the other way.
Yeah, this is the kind of trade that if he can really maximize the return, this would be massive home run. It could be a
be a
game
big win.
changer for the Canadians.
Especially if they get a team that wants to get him that's kind of in that fighting for that playoff spot. So they're kind of in the middle. Like if he can go to a team that's at 14th or 15th, you know what I mean? Or like right in that little, they might make the playoffs, they might not. And they get a first round pick out of that, they're laughing. Because if they don't make the playoffs, they get 2 top 15 picks.
Yeah, and you'll see if something like that were to happen, it'd be a Western Conference.
It'd be
team
a
that
Western
would-
Conference
yeah.
team. But I don't see him going to I see him going to like one of the teams that are already in a playoff spot.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
safe, and they just want something for the playoffs. So
Now, Jake Allen's going to be coming back very soon, and if he does come back this week, do you guys think he's going to get moved?
no,
No,
I don't.
I think he's safe.
I think
Because the
if
goalie
Hammond
market
was healthy,
is the goalie market is expensive right now, and people are getting a good return on goalies. So, with Montembeault playing the way he is, with Price possibly coming back by the end of the season, he's eyeing a return in April.
I
I
think
mean-
if we knew for sure Price was coming back, maybe. If Hammond, I think, was healthy, and he continued to play the way he was playing in his first 3 games, maybe.
Yeah.
But with I mean, I'm kind of biased because I'm not a big Montembeault fan, but
No, I
think
don't
with
see him sticking
Montembeault's
around. But
inconsistency, I think they want a consistent goalie in there.
Allen is a very team friendly contract for a backup goaltender for what he can bring to the lineup, especially when Price is healthy and playing up to his standard. Obviously now with the injury concerns and him obviously missing so far the majority all of this season, then I'm kind of looking. We've had the rumors of them looking at Ilya Samsonov. So maybe to bring in a more capable backup or not even necessarily a 1A, 1B situation, Price would still get the majority of the games. He'd probably play 50 games, say or sure, or maybe 45. And then you'd give the rest to that other goaltender. Right now with Allen, even though I'm a big Allen fan, big fan of him, you can't give him say half the games. or just under half the games.
If they get Samson, all right. So the scenario comes out, they get Samson off of the deadline, then for sure, I think you see Allen.
Yeah.
At least shopped around.
Yeah.
But where's he going to go? What team in the playoffs doesn't already have their number one goalie?
Edmonton.
Toronto.
Toronto, yeah, there's a
no,
there's a
it wouldn't
goaltending
be
issue there.
it wouldn't be Allen. They do need a goaltender, I think, to actually make a substantial run.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see even Edmonton maybe, but is Allen that much of an upgrade that he's going to carry him to the cup?
He's a definite upgrade.
Definite upgrade, but I don't know. And I'm not trying to shit on Allen here. I'm just looking at it as a like
who's going to be, who are going to be the guys.
Yeah.
In terms of who's going to be behind the net or in front of the net.
But
right?
but it's I think a lot of things have to come into play for Allen to be traded at the deadline. Like if they're serious about Samsonov, then yes, I can see them moving him to bring Samsonov in. If they're not, I don't see Allen going anywhere.
No, in the goaltending market for free agency right now, the two guys that I can see that would be moved if he wants to move, obviously Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be the top of that list, and the secondary one would be Braden Holtby out of Dallas, because now he's playing behind Ottinger. So
Kulak is also on the market. They're looking to trade him.
Kulak's having a horrible season, but
yep.
Still looking to move him.
Now
speaking,
moving on. Go ahead.
I've got one more piece of information. Darren Dreger posted this yesterday. Darren Ferris, the agent of Senators defenseman Victor Mete, has been given permission to speak to teams about a potential trade.
What?
Return will likely be a draft pick, but there's interest. So right now, he has appeared in 31 games this year. Ice time is 14.56 a game, so obviously elite, top pairing.
Well, how do you even bother to put a franchise altering defenseman on the market like that?
I know, and he hasn't played since the 26th of February. So obviously they're just resting him for resting.
They don't want him to get hurt.
Deal.
They don't want him to get hurt because in case he gets traded.
But yeah, there you go. So
that's game altering.
So with this huge tweet that does come out from Darren Dreger, I think that that's going to gauge the market of what we're going to return for Sherrod.
Sherrod's value just dropped.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Just dropped. Wait, I'm looking up what Tiger team has to say about that.
No one plays between the blue lines like he does.
Oh, amazing. I love how he gets so confused when he gets in the offensive zone.
Now, speaking of depth defensemen, we're going to move on to Brett Kulak. Now, Kulak has been on the market. He is a free agent at the end of the year, but under St. Louis, he has seen a resurgence. Do you guys feel like he is going to stay, or is he still on the market?
I still think that he'd be on the market. I'd say the same thing for Weidman, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I think Hugh's going to try to get rid of all his upcoming UFAs to see what he can get the assets for him. I mean, you got Schoenemann, who's also really played well under St. Louis, and he's pretty much in the same spot Kulak would be in if he stayed. So why keep Kulak at what, 2.75 million? I think
1.8.
1.85.
Okay, when you have $850,000 Schoenemann doing the same thing,
and Gianni Fairbrother down in the AHL, you can call up, and it opens up a roster spot for Harris to sign and walk
Jordan
right
Harris, with Struble. I don't think Struble's signing this year. I think he already said he wasn't going to.
Yeah.
But
Got Caden Gooley coming up as well.
Caden Gooley coming up. I think I like Kulak. I don't mind Kulak. I think Kulak gets a bad rap from a lot of people. I mean, I know the analytic guys love Kulak. And I'll kind of agree with. Limited minutes. I think Kulak's a great defenseman. But get something for him if you can.
I think if they do keep him, though, if they do, and that's a big if, he would provide that insurance so that you don't have to have Gooley step up. It forces the coaching staff to keep the young guys down in the farm for at least a year.
Yeah,
it's all what they want to do with prospects coming up and how they want
Yeah.
to develop them.
Yeah.
Do they want to throw Harris and Gooley right into the NHL,
Yeah.
or do they
You still
want
have
them to-
Norlinder as well.
That's right.
or do they want them to go into the Laval for a while? If that's the case, then I mean, because if you think about it, if Petrie's gone, Sherrod's gone, Kulak doesn't sign an extension, and he's gone. You're left with Romanov, Savard, Edmondson.
That's pretty much it.
And that's pretty much it.
So you're going to be able to reformat your entire blue line
Yeah,
in one
Pretty much.
season.
But it all depends on what they do in the off season with free agents as well. If
That's
they go
what
hard
Laval-
after, if they go hard after Letang, well, you got your top four.
Yeah. Speaking of like a brand new defensive line, though, we could be looking at Laval next season and seeing Gooley, Norlinder, Fairbrother, Jack Guy, Josh Brook. Like, it could be a very revamped blue line for them as well. And some of these
Yeah.
guys could even be on the Canadiens roster.
You could even see Logan Mailloux if you think they're going to sign him.
I think he'll get signed, but I don't see him moving up to the pros. He's only going to be 19, so he'll play another
I
year
don't,
in the
had-
O.
I don't think he'll be signed till next year.
I think he signed this summer.
Yeah.
I think so. I know people are going to yell at me because, of his background, but I honestly think that the Canadians are.
I think they're
Going
going
to
to
sign
sign
him.
him. I think they're going to sign him.
I think he's going to be a good NHL defenseman, but that's
Yes.
just me.
Yeah.
I think he's a steal at 31. I'm sorry, but he was.
Talent wise, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So final thoughts, Matt.
I got none, actually. I hope everyone's doing very well. It's good to be back on the show after a week. Continuing to stay busy at work. I got a lot of courses going on. Hasn't been set in stone, but likely deployment coming up. And if that's the case, hopefully I'll still be able to do as many shows as possible. But we'll see, depending on what environment I'm in. Let's just say that.
Greg?
Nothing, just getting prepared for my big move in July. I'll be putting a looking for friends ad on in the Ottawa One ads. I'm very antisocial and don't really like people and don't go out much, but hey, if you want to hang, do it at a distance. And that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I'm working on my career course. I got this big career course that's going on so I can get my promotion. So yeah, that's going to take up a lot of time. That's partially why, for our listeners, why we only got the one show out this week. We apologize. We want to do more, but scheduling conflicts caused this to happen. So
Yeah.
we're going to try our best to get the 2 out per week, but for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be tough. So just keep an eye out for us and we'll try our best.
I just finished a career course, the ILP,
Yeah.
and then I'm going away for 3 weeks for that in May. So
Whoop, whoop.
busy.
One more thing. Breaking news from Elliot Friedman.
Ooh.
Cedric Paquette has cleared waivers.
Yes, we didn't lose him. Thank God.
Actually, he'll help Laval.
Oh, he'll probably light it up like crazy in the.
Oh, yeah.
I will laugh my ass off if he does.
Yeah. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for listening. You guys have been very supportive for us. We've been getting all kinds of great comments and emails. Keep them coming. I think maybe in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start doing a fan segment. So maybe we'll work towards something where you can send us an email and we'll cover your topic. So yeah, anyway, thanks for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.